I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all. I'm blickety black, blacker than black, black, I'm blacker than black, yo, because I'm black and I'm back. Yo, I'm black and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blickety black, 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 I'm black, 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 y'all, and I'm black, y'all. And I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, cause I'm black.
What's good, people? How you doing? Episode 11, Words, Music, Dance. I'm your host, Paulie the Bull. Today I am joined by a recurring guest you've seen.
Yeah, I've been here a few times.
Yeah, a couple times. Homie Jared.
What up, y'all?
Jared, shout out your social media and stuff. You know, for those who may have forgotten.
Around the World 85. On Facebook, Twitter, the Dudderman 5. I forget. I barely use Twitter, so Google me. I don't know.
Yeah, you might find him. You find some people on there. And once again, I am Paulie the Bull. That's Paulie_the_bull on Twitter and _1080p_ on Instagram. All right, and this is a 2021 vision on all social media. You can find updates, conversations, and things going on over there, and search for it on YouTube to get all these videos and whatever else is going on in the world. All right. Speaking of what's going on in the world, we are still in the midst of Black History Month. But more specifically this week, we have the launch of Black Panther, the movie.
That's right.
Jared and I will be going to see it Thursday. We're going to see it Thursday. The reviews are out.
It sounded like one of the best movies ever made.
It sounded like it. I don't want to get too overhyped. I haven't watched any spoilers. I haven't,
Right.
I just saw the little reactions and slight, reviews, conversations and things. But yeah, it sounded like it's a very good movie.
It got one of the rare titles on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, barely
for like a good couple days, it was 100%. No critic gave it a bad review. I think as of now, there are about 2 bad reviews,
and that's probably just
the racist.
Yeah,
straight racist.
Either that or they were really those DC.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't I haven't like looked too in depth for what they said specifically, but I'm curious to see if they, I give the critics the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
Sometimes critics see things differently. This is still classified as a comic book superhero movie. So the fantasy aspect of it sometimes goes over people's head, or something they can't really comprehend, or just not their thing. So, sometimes you gotta kind of see in context what they didn't like about it, or so on and so forth. So,
kind of like baseball Hall of Fame voters.
Yeah, they remember the good old days
of how a spitball was used.
Right.
But we still can't prove Barry Bonds or whoever, and they can't get in.
And he's not in the Hall of Fame, right? Yeah. So it's just one of the things where who is voting,
right,
and critiquing matters more so than just nobody, as much as everybody want to be open-minded, whatever, there's always some sort of bias or prejudice, right, or whatever towards entertainment, movie, music, whatever. It's just taste.
Right.
Sometimes it comes down to taste.
It can be the fact that there's no such way that black people are this
right,
this dominant in the world, and this just can't be
right.
How dare those Negroes in their month think they're that popular?
Right. One thing that did Friday was the release of the Black Panther album.
Right.
Featuring Kendrick Lamar, or is it considered a Kendrick Lamar album?
It's
featuring other artists, various artists.
It's more of a TDE featuring, starring Kendrick.
Right. His name is prominent on it. He's the selling point of it. He's carrying the load. We don't know how it came about, so they might have came to him and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna get my friends on it,"
right.
Or they just had a bunch of songs and they said, "Hey, Kendrick, we're gonna put your name on it because you're famous. You just got nominated for Grammys," and so they might have said, let's ride that wave or whatever. So who knows? We don't know how that meeting went.
I think I remember seeing something like Ryan Coogler.
Ryan Coogler, yeah.
You know, him. I don't know how it was either he talked to Kendrick or he talked to the Top Dog, and he wanted them featured on the soundtrack. And I mean, but shout out to TDE, like,
absolutely,
because years ago nobody really knew who Kendrick was. You know, you put me on a Section 80, you know, and so forth, and then that just skyrocketed from there. And Top Dog went from a small little company to doing big things. I mean, you have one of the greatest artists of this time, you know, out there. Plus, you have other label mates like SZA and so forth, you know, doing their thing.
Also was nominated to Grammys and stuff.
Right, you know, nominated. She didn't win. She should have won.
Right,
but
sometimes the nomination is an acknowledgement enough that they are aware of
you know that we know you exist.
Right. So it's, you know, she is on the radar of other people, you know, the Grammy voters and stuff. We are aware of her, but you know, once you're nominated or you're spoken of that tier, you good things are expected of you and stuff.
You know, and the fact that it's TDE doing a soundtrack, not, you know, Rock Nation or Shady Aftermath or, you know, so like it's
a big deal.
So you know, you doing a good thing. I'm glad that chicken incident didn't go too bad.
Right. You know, Duckworth, listen to it. Have you listened to the album yet?
Not in full.
Okay.
A few tracks I listened to. I mean, well, because just like a Kendrick album, you kind of had to listen to it in order.
Correct.
To get a better feel for it. So far, it's cool. I mean, the All the Stars, I've heard that. You know, that was the first single. Now, King's Dead is a new single. I'm not too much of a fan of that song.
Right. And they also released the one with The Weeknd. I like that one. Pray for Me.
Right.
Cool song. Those are like the singles. But what I've noticed, I've played through the album a couple times now, and what it seems is each song pertains to a specific scene in the movie. It's good to see a soundtrack with purpose. Right. You know, they didn't just take a bunch of songs from a bunch of people and just, you know, throw it together and say, hey, this is the soundtrack, go buy it. Right. They each song, you know, again, a Kendrick thing, you know, making music with a purpose, not just making music, throwing it out there and putting the name on it and saying, hey, just buy it because you know, each song kind of, you know, seems to go with a scene in the movie. I haven't seen the movie yet, but every song is very specific in purpose and tone and meaning, and you know, and so it seems like it was meant to be that way. So they might have got an advanced screening of the movie and said, hey, what would go good here? You know, fill in the blank kind of thing. So that's good to see. You know, it's good to see. Which
I mean, that I want to say is just a Kendrick thing. You know, I mean, as a musician, you know, Kendrick, Top Dog, I guess. You know, even other people like Quincy Jones. You know, they're good.
We'll talk about him later.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that later. But it's just terms of their, you know, like it's the composition and their arrangement. Like if your arrangements aren't good, then it's going to be a bad product.
Correct.
So they have a good ear for knowing how to arrange certain things. And that leads for good things. So that's that.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's kind of like, so, you know, you remember like old 90s soundtracks used to be great.
Yeah.
You know, and you know,
that Boomerang
when that stands out.
That was one of the best soundtracks.
And it was you know,
money.
Yeah,
money soundtrack.
But it was a mixture of musicians thing. But again, each song kind of went. You know, Tony Braxton, "Love Should Have Brought You Home Last Night," and that was actually a line that Halle Berry said in the movie. You know, should have brought you. So the songs had purpose, but they were also great music of the time. You know, so that's kind of, you know, what makes for it to be a good soundtrack. You know, not just, oh, so and so is famous right now. Throw this out there. So, you know, definitely a plus. But looking forward to the movie.
Wait, side note, right quick. I know I said I wouldn't try to do sidetracks anymore.
It's okay,
but
I can edit it out. Chop it all out.
But Tony, but I used to be I used to be in love with Tony when I was a kid. But I saw her when I was at a doctor's visit.
Tony Braxton?
No, she was on the Kelly and Ryan Seacrest show.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna say she's the same doctor as you. That's what kind of plan she got with the label she on.
She got Hitler now.
That Obamacare.
Remember how her complexion was back then? Mm-hmm. She looking like Sammy Sosa now, man. Her whole skin changed dramatically. She went from a nice caramel, dark caramel, to Neapolitan ice cream now, man. I don't know if it was the makeup that they used, but they made her look dumb white.
Right. Isn't she?
She's still with Birdman.
She's still with Birdman. Right. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, listen, Birdman don't pay his artists, so maybe he ain't pay the makeup person to hook her up. I don't know.
Birdman also kissing dudes anyway.
Well, maybe he might not be doing that recently. Him and Wayne haven't really been seen together and aren't seen eye to eye.
I haven't seen him and Young Thug in a while too.
Right, so he might not be doing that anymore. But speaking of moguls and things, you briefly brought him up. Quincy Jones, he's in the news. He did an interview with Vulture magazine.
Or GQ, I think.
No, it was Vulture. It was definitely Vulture. Yeah. And which I've never heard of until now. It's Vulture.com, so I don't know if they have a magazine or what, but Vulture.com. And Quincy was just doing a lot of talking. He had no filter. He had a lot to say about everyone else, not so much about himself. And briefly, kind of wanted to touch on some of the topics that Quincy brought up. One of the many, so I think it was before that interview he mentioned before he has 20-something girlfriends. 22 girlfriends currently around the world at this age.
I think it's 85 or 86.
Yeah, something like that. So Quincy's got a lot of girlfriends. But in the Vulture interview, he mentioned he mentioned that he briefly dated Ivanka Trump.
For those who do not know, that is Trump's daughter.
Yeah. The interviewer asked him, if you could snap your fingers and fix one problem in the country, what would it be? Quincy's response was, racism. I've been watching it a long time. The 30s to now. He's really old. The 30s. He's been through,
We've been through some things, man.
He said, we've come a long way, but we've got a long way to go.
He's seen World War I, bro.
The South, the South has always been fucked up, but you know where to stand. The racism in the North is disguised. You never know where you stand. That's why what's happening now is good, because people are saying they are racist who didn't used to say it. Now we know. And then the interviewer asks, what's stirred everything up? Is it all about Trumpism? And Quincy replies, it's Trump and uneducated rednecks. Trump is just telling them what they want to hear. I used to hang out with him. He's a crazy motherfucker. Limited mentally. A megalomaniac narcissist. I can't stand him. I used to date Ivanka, And that was one of the weird blurts that he had in this interview.
One of the many blurts.
So the interview was like, wait, really? And he says, yes, sir, 12 years ago. Tommy Hilfiger, who was working with my daughter Kadada, said, Ivanka wants to have dinner with you. I said, no problem. She's a fine motherfucker. She had the most beautiful legs I ever saw in my life. Wrong father, though. So
yeah.
So 12 years ago, him and Ivanka went to dinner,
which would have made her 24.
Okay,
I think she's 36
so you did the math
now.
on this. All right, good job.
And he's 85, so that would have been 73 and 25.
So yeah, a 73-year-old and a 24-year-old going to dinner. How do you think that date went?
Probably the same as Clint Eastwood's date with his 27-year-old wife at that time.
Well, he didn't marry her, so.
But Quincy didn't marry her.
Right, Quincy didn't marry Ivanka.
Clint did. I don't know.
But well, how do we feel about Tommy Hilfiger telling Quincy that Ivanka wants to go out to dinner with you? Like, how do we?
I feel a certain way about that, man.
Yeah, like
I ain't gonna
that
front.
whole scenario seems very interesting.
I still to this day do not wear Tommy Hilfiger anything because of that Oprah thing when he was saying I don't want black people wearing my clothes. Mm-hmm. I don't make my clothes for black people. You know, either way, nigga, you racist. Mm-hmm. But the fact that, but you know what's funny is he could be racist, but because Quincy makes that much money, he ain't racist to him.
Of course not,
because money sees money,
right?
And then that's what he sees green. But it's kind of like one of those setups like, hey, you know, you're a good black guy.
Right.
I know a fine white one for you. Mm-hmm. Here's my friend.
And interesting enough, you know, Ivanka kind of being, you know, put out there, passed around, so to speak. I don't want to, you know, make it seem like.
I mean, what Trump would have passed her around, he could.
I mean, Trump seemed to want her himself, like
exactly.
So you know that their relationship in itself is awkward.
Wrong father.
Yeah, I wonder if that's what he meant. Like, you know, if it wasn't for that, then you know. But Quincy went on say some other things. What was the one about the Beatles? That was a pretty funny one too.
That was right there.
Yeah. So, in another question, the interviewer said, "What did you think when you first heard rock music?" And Quincy's reply was, "Rock ain't nothing but a white version of rhythm and blues, motherfucker."
I say, yo, Quincy is the Sam Jackson of music.
Yeah. Then he says, "You know, I met Paul McCartney when he was 21." So the interviewer asks, "What were your first impressions of the Beatles?" Quincy then says that they were the worst musicians in the world. They were no playing motherfuckers. Paul was the worst bass player I ever heard. And Ringo, don't even talk about it. I remember once we were in the studio with George Martin and Ringo. Oh, and Ringo had taken it 3 hours for a 4-bar thing he was trying to fix on the song. He couldn't get it. We said, "Mate, why don't you get some lager and lime, some shepherd's pie, and take an hour and a half and relax a little bit?" So he did. And we called Ronnie Verrill, a jazz drummer. Ronnie came in for 15 minutes and tore it up. Ringo comes back and says, "George, can you play it back for me one more time?" So George did. And Ringo says, "That didn't sound so bad." And Quincy says, "Yeah, motherfucker, because it ain't you." Great guy, though.
Great guy. Great guy.
So so now we got to question the Beatles' music. How much of it was them? How much of it was Quincy stepping in to help them out a little bit? Because the Beatles are kind of heralded as
one of the greatest bands of all time.
Yeah, I mean, interesting enough, the Migos just surpassed them for a record of most Billboard hits for at the same time for a group. So we go from the Beatles to the Migos and historic.
In history, right?
Yeah, you gotta. That's an interesting thing. But what like
trash surpass trash,
right? But yeah. What do we think about the Beatles' music? If you know.
Well, one, the whole interview, and any time Quincy was even saying, like, quoting things, I'm hearing things in Quincy's voice. Mm-hmm. And then I'm trying to hear, you know, like George Martin's voice in like a British, you know, kind of accent, you know, where it just sounds funnier to me.
Right.
The Beatles, I mean, look, they had hits, and that could have been Quincy's influence. Mm-hmm. It could have just been the culture at the time. Like, the Beatles came in when there really was, everything was, well, rock was black music. Mm-hmm. You know, rock. You know, because Chuck Berry was rock. Right. And then, you know, white people came in, stepped in, took that, you know, and it kind of faded to everything else. Like, but the Beatles were the top dog at that time. And it's kind of like, you know, kind of like when Hollywood said we made you. Mm-hmm. You know, it's the same kind of industry, you know, back then, I guess, you know, in British, like, everything was pretty much American this, American that. And you had this one group that was overseas, and they took the world by storm.
The British invasion is what they called it, actually, too. So
it's kind of was like, they may not have been the most talented group out there and so forth, but because they were the first of their kind to go out there and do it, and they had maybe some pizzazz about them, we made you. And they ran with it. So
that's true.
Like the Rolling Stones are probably I've heard a few. I like the Rolling Stones. I think they were a better group than the Beatles, to be honest. But I think the Rolling Stones were a more of an American group than anything.
Right.
And so it was about who came first.
Right.
The British thing came first.
Right.
So here they came.
So speaking of music that we had to question, Quincy also spilled the beans that Michael Jackson may have stole some music. So going back to the interview, the interviewer asked, says, "You work with Michael Jackson more than anyone he wasn't related to. What's something people don't understand about him?" And Quincy goes and says, "I hate to get into this publicly, but Michael stole a lot of stuff. He stole a lot of songs. Donna Summer's State of Independence and Billie Jean. The notes don't lie, man. He was a Machiavellian. He was as Machiavellian as they come." So then the interviewer says, "How so?" Quincy says, "Greedy, man. Greedy. Don't stop till you get enough. Greg Philliganis wrote the C-section. Michael should have given 10% of the song. Wouldn't do it." So when it comes to those songs and things like that, what do we think about that? So someone wrote the C-section of the song. I'm not a big music person. Is that like the third verse, or is that like a second, third area of the song, whatever? But these songs were created for other people, some by other people. I mean, "Don't Stop Till You Get Enough" is classic.
Right.
Do we look at that a different kind of way? Do we feel some kind of way about Michael?
I don't know. And the reason why I say I don't know is because, there have been plenty of artists that have had a song and then somebody else did it and it sounded better with them. So, Donna Summers is a phenomenal, singer, songstress, artist. She was great. She was popular back in the disco era.
Right.
Now maybe he heard how she sang it, but Michael was that dude though.
Right.
So maybe Quincy wanted to hear how Mike did on it. He liked his version better. Plus, like I said, Mike was at an all-time high. The Jackson 5 was done. He was by himself. I think around the same time Donna Summer was getting her
disco was on the decline.
Yeah, it was on the decline. So Donna Summer was on her way out for the most part.
Right.
Mike was on his way up because the pop thing was popping up.
Right.
So, I guess he rolled the wave with Mike because he was a hot hand.
Right.
So,
but see, that's interesting. You bring up a point. You saying he rode the wave and he did. He's kind of blaming Mike. He's saying Mike stole.
It could be a way of. Even though I don't know who wrote the song.
Right.
I think maybe Mike wrote this. I think maybe Quincy wrote the song or had somebody write the song. And Mike,
I think Quincy might have been with the music. He might be more the arranger of the music and drums, guitars, like who did what, and
He just said, Mike just came in one day and was like, "Hold on, what you working on?"
Right.
I want that.
Right.
And he just took it, and I guess at that point was who's going to tell Mike no?
Right. True.
Who was telling Mike no? You ain't gonna get that song. That song's for that person.
Right. It's funny because there's a hip hop rule that you can't do that.
Right.
So we looked at Drake a certain way. we looked at Usher a certain way when Confessions came out.
Quentin knows the best is the best.
But remember how people felt when we found out that Usher Confessions was actually Jermaine Dupri's Confessions. You know what I'm saying? We felt the kind of way about it. Even though it was
song,
it was R&B, but you know what I'm saying? And Quentin Miller wrote for Drake, and who else who knows who else. So hip hop is a rule. Dre, Diddy, Easy all had writers, write for them, and numerous other people. Going all the way back to Rapper's Delight.
Well, Q wrote for
Easy, right? Dre, Easy. But Rapper's Delight was written by somebody else. Rapture was written by somebody else. So hip hop started out that way, but it became a rule to be really respected. You had to write your own stuff,
right? Because I think it got into, and more so in the 90s, it got into a culture of everybody want to be their own individual. Mm-hmm. So, if you want to play an out game now, now you got to bring your own work.
Right.
It's not like, like if you're taking a test and I'm copying off of your thing, I'm like, all right, cool.
Right.
And I'm gonna get this A off of you. Nah,
right. So do we look at Michael differently?
I don't think you look at Michael any differently. Okay. I mean,
I don't myself.
One, he's dead.
Right. Which is that's the whole thing that's interesting about.
So the man can't defend himself either.
Right. Like Quincy bringing all this out now is interesting because a lot of these people can't defend themselves.
Right, and they can't say and honestly, even if he was alive, you may not even get he still may be in Bahrain somewhere. You can't get an interview with him. Right. 2, he may not even care to even comment on that, and so forth. And half of the time, anytime you even interview somebody about something, they always deny anyway. Right. No, that's not true. Right. So tell us what is true then. Right. Just not that true. So, Mike. That's what I mean. Mike might have took. Right. Well, according to Quincy, he took songs from everybody else.
I mean, we know
he made it his own.
Jay-Z took Renegade, but he left Eminem on it. It became a duet, but it was originally Eminem and Royce the 5'9". Right. But it became on the Blueprint. A song with Eminem, and Jay-Z together. So something like that. I mean, obviously, Jay didn't use Royce's lyrics. Right. But the song structure, the chorus stayed the same. The topic, stayed the same. So you kind of have an idea, a skeleton of a song. Right. You can fill in your own, blank. So do we discredit Jay for that? No. Okay. Because
we don't discredit Jay for that because Jay actually made his own lyrics to it. Right. I mean, we don't know the original song to Billie Jean. Maybe Billie Jean sounded something completely different, or maybe.
So we need a DJ to leak the reference track.
Right. We need Quincy. We need Quincy to release the original.
The Quentin Miller reference came out for Drake. We need the Donna Summers reference track to come out for that.
So I mean, we don't know how the original song went. Right. But I mean, it doesn't make Mike less of an artist because remember we also think about Mike. Not also for his singing, but also for his dancing, his entertaining skills. Right.
Funny you mentioned that, because I think it was in a previous interview, Quincy also mentioned one night when they were celebrating James Brown.
That was a GQ interview.
Yeah, that was a GQ interview, and it was a James Brown celebration, and James Brown called Michael to come on stage, let Mike do real quick. Mike bust a little two-step, hit some notes. Man, I love you. Yeah, I'll put that video here.
You gotta come up and say something. Michael Jackson, come on up, Mike. Come up and say something. You gotta come up and say I love you.
And also, Prince came up on stage.
After Mike whispered to James, like, hey, you know,
Well, we don't know what he said. We don't know what Mike said.
Prince here, but get his bitch ass up here.
and then some dude that looked like a buff
Rick Rubin. A younger Rick Rubin.
Carried Prince on his shoulders, which I would love to see a Chappelle Show skit of. But Prince gets carried to the stage, gets up on stage, runs home his guitar real quick, hits a couple strings, says, nah, this ain't what I'm feeling, takes his jacket off, busts a little two-step with the microphone, do his little kick, over-under maneuver, says, nah, I'm still not feeling this. Then he feels the beat, start doing his little grinding and to the beat.
He was making love to the crowd.
Yeah.
Air.
But the moment that, you know, set off was when he attempted to get off the stage. He was going back to his buff Rick Rubin looking dude and went to he was grabbing on a pole which wasn't stationary.
It was a light post that was supposed to be a replica of against New York.
Right.
And that light post actually wasn't fixed. It wasn't glued down good enough.
Right.
I guess that was 80s budget.
So then. Prince, in Quincy's words, Prince was upset with how things went on stage. Him and Mike didn't even acknowledge much of each other or whatever, but Quincy says that Prince waited outside and was about to run Michael over with the limo. Michael's mom and LaToya.
Right.
He was about to run them over with the limo.
Like a thug, baby.
So Prince is
a thug.
Prince is a thug. Prince is gangster. Like, I mean, I've always been a Prince fan and a Michael Jackson fan.
Right.
I grew up my mom's a huge Michael Jackson fan. I grew up in a Michael Jackson household. I came to learn of Prince on my own. Purple Rain, classic movie, classic album to me. It's just interesting to know that. I mean, Chappelle taught us that Prince played ball.
Yeah.
Which has been proven. Everybody, says it's factual. So Prince played ball.
He also did show us that because I think the Chappelle Show thing came out before before YouTube had that footage of that. So even just seeing how Prince rode on people's backs.
Right. So
like Chappelle showed us that.
So Prince is really a unique person. Like I don't know how to say.
I don't know how you
but the fact that he was ready to kill Michael, LaToya, and their mom,
embarrassed
because of that moment, says a lot. I mean, what do we think of Prince? What do we think of Prince for that?
Yo, Prince is more a thug than half of the rappers out there.
That is true. Because you do disrespect Prince, he run you over.
The fact that he drove the limo.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he said he drove it or the driver.
It don't matter. He's still a gangster for ordering. Right. He tried to order the hit.
Correct.
He ordered a hit. It didn't matter if
That's
he drove
what that
it.
is.
He ordered a hit.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't go right. It didn't go too well, but
right.
I mean, luckily it went well enough not to hit anybody because
I would love for that footage to be found.
I would love to see that footage of the back alley, but I'm pretty sure the Apollo did not have anything of such sorts.
Yeah. Now, if you recall,
hold on, one quick thing.
Go ahead.
One, I definitely want to give you props on saying Philiganis on a one shot. I
hope I said it right. I don't know.
That was impressive to me because I would have.
I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. But I was just, we're
gonna run with that.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
That's really messed up with Mike. Now I do feel sorry about Mike. Not trying to pay that man for writing the
the dude wrote a whole section of a song.
That's royalties.
Right. And I don't, we don't know that dude. We don't know his publishing.
That's beat on Mike's part.
I mean, ironically, 6 degrees separation or what have you, Mike ended up purchasing the Beatles catalog. So we know Mike has always been about getting the masters in the catalog, and so if dude wrote part of the song, like, can I get 10%? Mike, no. no.
Mine.
You know what I mean?
All mine.
So, sorry, mama. But, I mean, and again, call it smart business or what have you, Because
it's
if Mike,
shady.
It is shady. I mean, but we don't know if the dude got any money from it at all.
Well, we know who didn't get money from it. Donna Summers.
Well, and that's the thing, because I don't know how the publishing might have been broken down, or you know what I'm saying. But we don't know full details.
Right.
I mean, dude wanted 10%. Maybe Mike gave him 5. We don't know. Quincy's just talking.
Right.
We don't know. Maybe instead of 10%, he just cut him a check for the moment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas he should have been 10% of the song. Right. As the song grows and grows and grows. Because you think about that song,
So that 10% would have made that man a millionaire.
He's straight for life. So
his kids are straight for life.
Yeah. So he didn't want to give him 10%, but he might have hooked him up. He might have broke him off for that. You know what I'm saying? So who knows? We don't know. Yeah. We don't know exactly how that went down. But Quincy, was talking. A point you brought up, off camera was that, if we're unsure if Quincy is old and senile or bugging, one moment that we do know he, was saying was when the interviewer asked him about Bill Cosby.
Right.
And he was like,
I ain't talking about that.
Right. So.
Next question.
He was fully aware that that's a topic that he will not discuss.
Right.
He can talk about.
He did say about Harvey Weinstein though.
Right. He did bring that up. So he is particular about obviously not talking about his friends and things was going on, but he knows some things. Quincy's one of the people that obviously said he's been around since the 30s. He's seen a lot, been around a lot, knows a lot, and
And he know who killed Kennedy, bro.
He's right, yeah. Well, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know if you recall me, I don't want to go too, again, I never go into conspiracy stuff on the show, but you, Tyrone, and myself had a conversation offline about, Quincy's affiliations with, with crews and things, and that doesn't surprise me, because Quincy's been around, Quincy, he's one of those guys that's just been there, and even when he stopped doing music and stuff, his connection to certain people, Will Smith, he gave Will Smith Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? He had a connection to Tupac, whereas him and Pac had a little falling out or whatever, but however, Pac ended up
Quincy got connection
being engaged with his daughter. So again, Quincy's connections to the world we know today is still he dated Ivanka. You know what I mean? Like
the dude said Sinatra.
Right.
The dude said like there was parts of Vegas he wasn't allowed to go into, but Sinatra said nah, that man can go anywhere he wants.
So he wasn't a part of the Rat Pack, but he was affiliated. So it was like hey,
he was basically a made man.
Mm-hmm. But another interesting point that he brought up in the Vulture interview.
We going there?
Yeah, we going there.
Oh boy.
The interviewer talked to him about other things other than music. So he talked about dance and stuff like that.
Boy.
when the topic of a cha-cha came up, the interviewer said maybe not the cha-cha, whatever. Quincy says Marlon Brando used to go cha-cha dancing with us. He could dance his ass off. He was the most charming motherfucker you ever met. He'd fuck anything. Anything. He'd fuck a mailbox. James Baldwin, Richard Pryor, Marvin Gaye. And then the interviewer says, he slept with them? How do you know that? Quincy frowns and says, come on, man.
Come on.
He did not give a fuck. You like Brazilian music? And that was a weird transition. But I could imagine, to the surprise, the shock of the interviewer, that we go from talking about cha-cha dancing to how charming Marlon Brando was, to how Marlon Brando smashed James Baldwin, a prominent poet, black poet that we all know,
he was
quoted numerous times. Richard Pryor, arguably to some one of the greatest comedians we've known.
Yeah.
Inspired a lot of comedians that we have today, and Marvin Gaye, who. No pun intended in his name, but was
sexual healing, bro.
Sexual hit. Now we got to listen to that song a little.
When he got that feeling.
So, we prefaced it before about saying that Quincy is in these streets and been out here and seen some things.
And know some things.
So we gotta take what he says, you know, and kind of believe it. I mean, how do we feel about Marlon Brando, the Godfather, smashing James Baldwin, Richard Pryor, Marvin Gaye?
See, like the
talk about it.
The James Baldwin thing doesn't really surprise me.
He was openly gay, wasn't he?
He was.
Okay.
So, you know, but he was one of the most brilliant people you could ever hear. So it didn't really matter. Mm-hmm. And not to, I need to definitely preface that by saying we have this thing where, you know, we'll say something about somebody. Mm-hmm. And I mean by we, I mean people in general. Mm-hmm. We'll say something about somebody and then we'll say, oh, but he's gay. And that is not, some people do say it to knock the person.
Right.
And honestly, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean the person is less of a person because he's gay.
Agreed.
You know, like I have my feelings about Odell Beckham, and I say the way he acts and so forth. I think he's gay, and that doesn't mean he's not one of the greatest wide receivers I've seen with talent.
Right.
That dude has, bar none, one of the best talents I've seen. Mm-hmm. He just may have a kind of lifestyle that I don't want to live.
Right.
But
Sexual Healing was the song that he was singing in the jacuzzi.
This is the sixth.
When Cromartie came up out the wall.
It's the fourth wall breaking right now, man. It's like a Black Dynamite. It's like a Black Dynamite.
Singing Sexual Healing in the water.
He might have knew something we didn't know.
The commercial they just had at the Super Bowl. Yeah, Dirty Dancing. Yeah. Marlon Brando, Cha Cha.
Yeah, you know this.
So James Baldwin, I believe, was openly out.
Things,
Richard Pryor has been known to be in relations with transsexual,
right? And so is Eddie,
right? And Eddie Murphy and some others,
right?
And there's also a video clip of the Richard Pryor show Roast,
right,
where he kind of outed Paul Mooney. He sort of.
Next to her is what we call Miss Thing. We call him that with love and affection, as all of us know. Well, he hasn't let us down yet, has he? We've been friends a long time, and I sure wish he'd return my red handkerchief. My wife been wondering where it was. I hope it still has her perfume scent on it. But really, Paul, it's really been a pleasure working with you because we worked together many years ago on the Red Fox show. We started writing together, and we walked into the office with the white man, and Paul what he did was sucked his dick. I must say, Paul had a sense of humor. He didn't let him come in his mouth. But seriously, Paul wrote most of the dialogue for everybody up here tonight, and he's a brilliant writer. And we went once to. What was that man's name that we went to and we had to fight? The producer. Producer, the Bill. Shelton Leonard. Shelton Leonard. We walked in his office. We was there for an hour together. And Shelton Leonard picked our brains, and And he said, thank you, and you can leave now. And I asked for the money. and Paul said, don't do that. Don't get us in no trouble now. I threatened to kick his ass, and Paul tried to join him. But we're dear friends, and this is all in fun. Next, just don't tell him about Maropasa. Next, I moved. Paul was with me once when I first fucked my first faggot. And he's been holding that over my head for 2 years. I fucked a faggot. I just want to say it now so nobody else can tell. I liked it. I would have married him, but he had to go away and get an operation. I'd like to move now, Paul, if you don't mind.
But he outed himself too,
right?
Because he didn't want Paul to get him back,
right?
So it was kind of
holding.
He 8-miled him. He hit him with the B rabbit. He's like, before you say it, I'm gonna hit you with this first. So he kind of put it out there, and Richard's wife confirmed that she knew of Marlon Brando and what was going on, but she kind of played it. She downplayed it, saying it was the 70s. He was on drugs.
Which is the same kind of thing we say about
right.
about Cosby. It's like, it's the 70s.
Right.
Everybody was getting down with some stuff kind of crazy.
Right. And when you think about it, at the time, that might be the mindset. So again, I'm not defending Cosby.
Right.
However, putting the pills or whatever, might have just been the thing.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I do not know what happened that night with the women, but everybody was on some stuff back then in the 70s. Was free love,
right.
And you know what I mean? But
and Marlon was gonna give everybody some
Marlon free love. Even the mailbox to get it. Marlon Brando was around.
Which means he was one of the most horniest Native American dudes you ever heard about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which not everybody knew he was Native American.
Right.
He had to portray himself as white.
Correct.
To even get
right.
Gigs and so forth from Oklahoma. So.
Right. Marvin Gaye is the one
that's a fact. That
shocked me the most. Again, his name didn't give it away. That one I was a little like, really? Because again,
I still am like, really. That blew my mind right there, bro.
Right. And we don't know if it was
a one time. I don't even know if it was a one time thing.
It was a one-off. It was a call. Right. We don't know. We don't know if it was.
It don't matter if he kissed the tip or whatever. It don't matter. He still had relations with the man. Yeah. That's that's no different than than dudes in jail, or whatever. And then I was doing this to pass the time, bro. I ain't gay though.
Like Bernard Hopkins. Bernard, the executioner.
Yeah, the gimp suit.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, honestly, I still.
Is this making you awkward? Are you?
I feel very awkward.
Listen, man.
I still to this day say DMX does some things because his lyrics, some things in his lyrics, is real.
Well, it's funny. A lot of I've had this conversation with some people with rap conversation and stuff. Big John for one always talked about Biggie's lyric. She looks so good.
I want to suck in your. And then
that was a Richard Pryor line. That was actually an old joke that Richard Pryor used to say.
I remember he did say that.
Yes. So now look at the context of.
Marlon Brando. Everything goes at the freaking Godfather, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
So weird,
yeah.
So awkward even talking about this.
So
I can't watch the Godfather now.
Marlon Brando.
Nah, I just watch Godfather. It's a great movie.
I mean,
it is what it is, man.
Right.
The dude was horny. He was Eric Benet. Before Eric Benet.
Never go Eric. Well, we don't know if Eric Benet was smashing.
Well, I don't know what he was doing, but,
right.
But Eric Benet said he had a sex addiction.
Right.
Marlon Brando had a real time.
Even mailboxes.
Hardcore sex addiction. Which means if he would do a mailbox, he'd probably do animals too. And the man was from Oklahoma, and he was Native American, so.
Listen, man.
Animals were not too far out his region.
That is true. But all in all, what do we feel about
I don't want to feel anything.
Quincy telling all of this stuff now? You know, how do we feel about Quincy doing all this talking now?
He's 85. He don't care. He get it all out.
So he get a pass?
He get a pass because the man, who gonna do what to him?
I mean, not that he could do anything to him, but
You know what I'm saying, like his whole, like it's not gonna discredit anything he did, or he's just getting it all out. Like this was really his tell-all,
right?
You know,
well, I think he's writing a book or something, so it might be. Imagine if this is just the beginning.
It's a prelude.
Can you imagine if there's more, or
I don't want to know. Right now, there's more.
He might go into detail.
I mean, look, bruh.
Yeah.
He's definitely a wise man because he has seen a lot. He's seen
the 30s.
Let's see, 30s. That was the end of the Great Depression. That was World War II. That was Vietnam War. Damn, that's
basically
a lot.
everything we watch a movie for.
Everything we seen and read in a book. He lived it.
He lived it. He could write that book.
Almost everything.
Yeah. I mean, he was younger then, but 40s and on, he was tanning up, and
right.
Yeah. 50s,
Like
40s,
everybody
50s.
was going to war. He's seen racism.
Yeah.
How it has evolved or disguised itself and so forth. You know, he's been around, bro. Like, I mean, his wisdom. You know, it's kind of like one of those grandfather moments where you just hearing the stories and you like, damn, word. She was like that.
Yeah.
You know, and he just dishing.
The funny thing is, though, with all of the stuff that Quincy put out, he didn't really put much on his own, his own business out there.
He ain't gonna stitch on something.
Right. I mean, he mentioned Ivanka, but there's also a rumor that he tried to sleep with Tupac. And I mean, the interviewer probably didn't ask him that, or whatever. But that's an interesting thing too. And he put out Marlon Brando's business, but it's like there's rumors that he might have got Will Smith.
Right.
So he didn't really mention much of his own dirt.
Marlon dead, so Marlon can't defend himself.
Right, as I'm saying, he put a lot of business out there for those that can't, rebuttal
Right.
or can't, devalue.
And you never know. He might have to protect Will on things. You know, 'cause it's just rumors.
Right, it's all rumors now. Can't prove it. But it's like if Quincy was to say something, it would hold some weight. Like a lot of the stuff mentioned in this interview held some weight. Like it really because you think you like, well, why would he lie?
He doesn't really have a reason to.
You know what I mean? And
if it's to sell a book, then I see why. But.
Right. I mean, it's very, very interesting.
Man, but I mean,
you all right?
Yeah, no, I'm not really. I'm kind of shaken by this, but but the Tupac thing is, maybe it may be real, maybe not. I mean, either way, Quincy's not going to dom himself,
right?
So that would have to be.
All we know is again the link between Tupac and Jada Pinkett being so close,
right?
Quincy and Will being close. Will didn't getting Jada. Pac getting was it Kadada or was it
I think it was Kadada.
Well, his daughter. We'll just say his daughter.
One of them.
Yeah, they got some names. But so there's links in that family tree that are too close to just not. I don't believe in coincidences. So
right.
Some things come up, some things happen, some things are linked. People are in passing. It's like maybe.
Quincy was a pimp though.
I mean, apparently so was Tommy Hilfiger. You know what I mean?
Like true.
Tommy said, "Yo, Ivanka want to holler at you.
Yeah.
All right, make it happen." We don't know. Tommy might have been putting Marlon on to. We don't listen. It was the 70s, as they say.
Oh Lord.
We don't know. I was not alive then. No. I feel like I'm glad I didn't miss that.
Yeah, I mean, I heard Student 54 was a shit though.
Yeah, I mean, again, a lot was going on in the bathrooms. I heard.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like it's interesting time. But
wild and crazy times.
Yeah. And it's funny. So in closing, we look back now in this Me Too era that we're currently in, and women, what was going on back then? You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know, truthfully, who was against what was going on, who was fighting, who was with it, or if if it was beyond their control because they were on some drugs. We just don't know. I mean, Marvin Gaye, Richard Pryor, and Baldwin have all passed away. Yeah. They may have been on some Terry Crews type. Right. I wasn't with it, and it happened, or we just don't know. You know what I mean? But
it's. Guess still blowing out candles back in those days, man. it was drink champs in those days.
Did he want to take Fab shopping? You want to party with him on his birthday?
Why you never say anything for your birthday?
Hollywood is a scary place.
Wild and crazy times, man.
Hollywood is a scary place.
Times. I mean, one thing I do want to close with, bring up before we close. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is lately about it. Last year was Story of OJ. Mm-hmm. This year we got the Biggie and Tupac Unsolved thing on USA.
Yeah.
Also at the end of the month, BET has the Death Row Chronicles. I just saw an advertisement on the billboard for that. Mm-hmm. Why do we wait until Black History Month to do this shit?
Well, it seems they got tired of talking about slaves, so now they're going to talk about, the dark side of our history now, I guess.
And they wait until February to do all this shit too.
Listen, we got Black Panther.
That's the best. that alone overshadows everything else.
We got Black Panther. I'm gonna put my Monique right now. Listen, babies, I'm gonna need y'all to boycott every other movie this weekend and go see Black Panther. Okay? Don't see nothing else this weekend because we need to break a record right here. Even if the record is temporary until Infinity War come out, because that's probably gonna be
gonna break that.
But if we can hold that record for a couple months, that'll be a good look. So don't bootleg it.
Stay strong.
Don't bootleg it. Don't get the DVD. Don't watch it on the Fire Stick. Go see that movie. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm not even gonna lie.
Comes out Thursday.
I'm not even gonna lie. I'm just trying to say it's gonna be a big movie, and of course he's not the first black superhero. No. However, he is the biggest right now. The timing, the Marvel universe that they've created with the movies, it's just right. And even Stan Lee himself said, of all the movies, this is the one he's been waiting to see.
He's proud of the most.
He's the proud of the most. Him and Jack Kirby created this character during the Civil Rights time. Yep. So this is the movie he's waiting for. So, listen, I think we need to all go see it at least once this weekend. And if you like it, then go see it again.
Right.
As always, the conversation continues. If you feel free to comment below. If you're watching this on YouTube or streaming on any of your favorite podcast apps. But also a 2021 vision across all social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And also you can send me an email, video, or text to a 2021vision@outlook.com. Keep your video short so I can edit it, throw it in the next video, be a part of the conversation. Jared, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, man. See you Thursday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And on that note, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the show, hit the like button. Share it. Tell your friends about it. Let them know what's going on. Also, hit subscribe and the bell to be notified when new content is loaded, because there's much, much more to come.